toilet, toilet, bed, bed, toilet, bed.
That's what she saw on the monitors, hidden cameras, inside the most powerful man's home, labeled, organized, running 24 hours a day.
I can't even tell you what some of these things are. Devices, photographs, videos, logbooks, lists of masseuses, people's names. All this stuff was hidden in these units.
And that was just what they were willing to say out loud.
Certainly anybody that keeps thousands of pictures of nude and semi-nude children in his home is somebody that I think could present a danger to the community.
But here's what nobody is fully connecting. The mansion was the stage, the storage units were the vault, and what was inside both of them, the physical evidence, the hidden systems, the objects that don't have innocent explanations, tells a story so dark, so meticulously organized, that it stops being a scandal and starts being something else entirely. This is that story. Before we get to what was locked away in secret units across the country, you need to understand the building those secrets came from, because Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan townhouse at 9 East 71st Street was not a home, it was a machine. When federal officers executed that raid in July 2019, they didn't just walk into the residence of a wealthy man, they walked into what investigators would later describe as the fully operational headquarters of a global blackmail and control network. A fortress designed from the ground up, not to make guests comfortable, but to make them trapped. And the very first thing anyone saw when they walked through that front door told them exactly what kind of place this was.
I mean, when you first walk into this door, it was stated that the painting of Bill Clinton in a dress was right there for you. Very, very prominent.
An oil painting, former president of the United States, dressed in a blue gown and red heels, sitting in the Oval Office, smirking directly at you. Think about that for a second. This wasn't dark humor. This wasn't an eccentric collector's quirk. This was a calculated psychological opening move. Every billionaire, every senator, every foreign dignitary who walked through that door saw that painting first. And the message was instant and unmistakable. I have material on the most powerful man in the world. Imagine what I have on you. And that was before they even took their coat off. The decor throughout the rest of the house continued that theme. Dominance, surveillance, dehumanization. There were rows of framed glass eyes imported from Europe, originally manufactured for soldiers wounded in combat. Hung on the walls like hunting trophies. A life-sized female mannequin suspended from a chandelier. A custom chessboard where every piece was carved to look like a member of the household staff, dressed only in underwear. Every single object communicated the same thing. In this house, people are property, but the decor was just the surface layer. Beneath it was the real infrastructure.
There's a window on the right that's barred. That's the room, the media room is what he called it. Yeah. And so there was a door that looked like an invisible door with all this limestone and everything, and you push it and you go in. And I saw all the cameras.
A door built into solid stone, invisible from the hallway. Behind it, men sat in the dark, watching stacked monitors showing live feeds from every bedroom, every bathroom, every private corner of that mansion, labeled, logged, running constantly. This was not a paranoid billionaire with a nanny cam. This was a fully engineered intelligence operation. Every person who entered that building, powerful or powerless, was being recorded in their most vulnerable moments. And those recordings didn't disappear. They were stored, cataloged, weaponized, which brings us to what the FBI found when they started pulling that thread. Most people, when they think about the Epstein investigation, think about the mansions, the island, the plane. What they don't think about are the storage units, 16 of them, scattered across the United States, South Florida, New York, possibly out west. Rented quietly, paid for consistently, maintained for over 16 years.
And credit card receipts suggest that he was still paying for these units from 2003 until 2019, the year of his death.
From 2003 to 2019, that means these units were active and funded through his 2006 arrest, through his sweetheart plea deal, through his 2008 conviction, through his years as a registered offender hosting dinner parties for Nobel laureates and former heads of state. The whole time, The rent was being paid, and the reason those units existed traces back to a single moment in 2005 when everything almost collapsed. A 14-year-old girl came forward in Palm Beach. Police began building a case. They were preparing a raid, and then somebody made a phone call.
The police chief has said then and says now that he believes someone tipped Epstein off and that he had enough time to remove maybe some incriminating evidence before police arrived.
In the weeks between that tip and the actual raid, Epstein went into full operational panic mode. He didn't just hide a few files. He hired private investigators and security consultants specifically to identify, extract, and relocate the most sensitive materials from his residence before law enforcement arrived.
Epstein was emailing with private investigators who he hired to remove, in particular, 3 computers from his home before the search warrant was executed.
3 high-capacity computers gone before the warrant was executed. And the question that investigators kept asking, the question that still doesn't have a full answer, is what was on those machines that was worth paying tens of thousands of dollars to move in the dead of night? Because here's what ended up in those storage units when investigators eventually got access. Computers, hard drives, VHS tapes labeled with words like shower and lingerie, telephone directories, physical, handwritten lists of direct lines to some of the most powerful people in the world, boxes of cash, a concealed carry permit. Grooming manuals detailing step-by-step psychological techniques for breaking down a person's resistance and conditioning them into servitude, and photographs. Hundreds of photographs.
Devices, photographs, videos, logbooks, lists of masseuses, people's names. All this stuff was hidden in these units that he took everything off site so that they could do that phony raid on his compound.
That word, phony, is the key to understanding the entire operation. The 2005 Palm Beach raid found almost nothing because it was designed to find almost nothing. The actual evidence had already been evacuated to a network of anonymous storage facilities spread across multiple states under multiple names, completely invisible to local law enforcement with a single jurisdiction search warrant. It was a masterstroke of criminal logistics, and it worked for almost 20 years. Let's talk about what those recordings were actually for, because there's a theory that gets dismissed as speculation, but the physical evidence found in those storage units makes it almost impossible to argue against.
And there's always been a theory lingering in the background that Epstein was a blackmailer.
Yes, he was storing up compromise on anyone and everyone.
And if you want to explore that line of inquiry, then what is it that he's got on there that hasn't already been released in the Epstein files? Could it be even worse? And could it be the various smoking guns that he was using to blackmail public figures?
The surveillance cameras in the Manhattan mansion weren't just about control in the moment, they were about leverage forever. Every meeting, every encounter, every private conversation caught on tape in that house was deposited into what was functionally a human leverage library. And the storage units were the off-site backup. The grooming manuals found alongside those tapes make the intent undeniable. These weren't curiosities. Books like Complete in Training with Miss Abernathy are operational documents, detailed step-by-step guides for psychologically dismantling a person's sense of self and rebuilding them as compliant, silent, and controllable. Finding those books in the same unit as victim videos and powerful men's contact information isn't a coincidence. That's a complete system. Recruitment, grooming, recording, storage, leverage, silence, and the silence extended upward, way upward. Back in the Manhattan townhouse, among the documents seized by federal investigators were birthday cards, warm personal birthday cards sent to Jeffrey Epstein in 2016. Let that land for a second. 2016. 8 years after his 2008 conviction as a registered offender, 8 years after the world already knew what he was, and the cards kept coming. From billionaires, from linguists, from former heads of government, from film directors, a wide variety of politicians, scientists, and intellectuals. At a registered offender's dinner table, after the conviction, after the headlines, after the victims had already come forward, and then there was the framed dollar bill on the wall, signed by Bill Gates, with a handwritten inscription, "I was wrong."
You know, I had dinners with him. I regret doing that.
Regret. That's the word. But Epstein didn't keep that signed dollar bill out of sentimentality. He kept it as a trophy, proof that he had brought one of the wealthiest and most respected men in the world into his orbit, extracted something from him, an admission, an acknowledgement, a concession, and mounted it on his wall like a deer head. That was his real collection, not art, not antiques, people, secrets, leverage. Here's something that doesn't get discussed enough. Epstein knew this day was coming. His 2006 arrest in Palm Beach taught him something critical, that he was not untouchable. Yes, he escaped with a plea deal that federal prosecutors later described as among the most lenient ever given to someone facing those charges. But that experience planted a seed of paranoia that quietly grew into something elaborate. Hidden inside the Manhattan mansion, federal agents found diamonds, stacks of cash, and most tellingly, an expired foreign passport from the 1980s. His photograph, a completely different name, the listed residence, Saudi Arabia.
According to prosecutors, the FBI found piles of cash, diamonds, and an expired foreign passport from the 1980s with Epstein's photo, but under a different name. His residence listed as Saudi Arabia.
This wasn't a relic. This was an escape kit. Diamonds don't trigger metal detectors. They have no serial numbers. They carry no bank alerts. You can walk through international customs with a bag of diamonds worth millions of dollars and nobody knows. Cash is liquid and untraceable, and a forged passport with a false identity means that even if your real name appears on every international watch list in the world, you can still vanish. He had been building this exit for decades, and the fact that he never used it, that he was arrested in July 2019 before he could disappear, suggests that the speed and scale of that federal indictment genuinely caught him off guard. The storage units were part of the same escape architecture. Physical hardware spread across jurisdictions. No single warrant could recover everything. Paid in cash, named under different entities, designed so that even if the walls closed in, the most damaging materials could survive and potentially be used as leverage from wherever he landed. It was a complete system, and for nearly 2 decades, it worked. Then the files started coming out, following a court-mandated release of millions of previously sealed DOJ documents. The institutional earthquake that investigators had predicted for years finally arrived, and the names that surfaced, the connections that became undeniable, triggered consequences that are still unfolding right now. Lawrence Summers, former president of Harvard University, former U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, financial ties to Epstein confirmed, resigned from Harvard positions, stepped down from the OpenAI board.
I've said that I'm going to step back from public activity, but for a time, but I think it's very important to fill my future.
Brad Karp, chairman of one of the most powerful law firms in America, resigned. Catherine Rimler, former White House counsel, stepped down. Their correspondence with Epstein revealed material support and received benefits incompatible with their professional positions. Prince Andrew, arrested. UK police investigating him for misconduct in public office after new files suggested he may have passed sensitive trade information to Epstein while serving as a special trade envoy. Emails from 2011 show Andrew wrote to Epstein saying they were, in his own words, in this together.
Just for the record, you've been on his private plane.
Yes.
You've been to stay on his private island.
Yes.
You've stayed at his home in Palm Beach.
Yes.
Peter Mandelson, arrested in February 2026. Documents suggest he shared internal government briefings with Epstein and discussed manipulating tax policy on his behalf. The sitting UK Prime Minister publicly apologized for appointing him.
Sorry for having believed Mandelson's lies and appointed him.
And there's still more. A Norwegian prime minister, a Dubai business executive fired after emails showed he shared a torture video with Epstein. A well-known medical influencer whose name appeared 1,700 times in a single document release. But here's the part that should make you the most uncomfortable. Despite all of this, despite the document releases, the arrests, the resignations, investigators now believe that a significant portion of the most critical evidence may still be missing.
It's not just a few dozen documents that are not being turned over. Fully half of the documents that we're aware of, some 3 million documents, have not been turned over by the DOJ. They claim they fully responded, and yet we've found over and over again, and I can tell you that oversight Democratic staff have confirmed what you have found, that these documents are missing. They were not turned over, even though they were very clearly responsive to the questions that we asked And this appears to be part of a very broad cover-up.
3 million documents unaccounted for, and the question of whether every storage unit was ever actually searched, whether those cloned hard drives, those VHS tapes, those operational manuals are still sitting in a fluorescent lit locker somewhere in South Florida, that question has never received a satisfactory answer. When you lay it all out, the mansion designed to intimidate, surveil, and record. The storage units built to preserve and protect the most damaging evidence. The escape diamonds and forged passports hidden in the walls. The birthday cards from powerful men who knew exactly who they were writing to, and the 3 million missing documents. You're not looking at a scandal, you're looking at a system, a complete, multi-layered, internationally connected system that operated for decades in full view of some of the most powerful institutions in the world. And the most chilling part isn't what was found inside those properties, it's what might still be out there. The walls of that Manhattan townhouse held their secrets for decades. The storage units held theirs longer, and now, slowly, one sealed document at a time, they are speaking. What they're saying is only the beginning.